Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to the second part of our math lesson for today. Again, we're doing the lesson 7.8, which deals with time to the hour and half hour, and we're answering the essential question, how do you tell time to the hour and half hour on a clock? So first thing that they're going to have us do is they're going to have us draw the hour hand to show each time. So remember, the hour hand is the smaller of the two hands on the clock. And whatever number that that's pointing to is going to tell you what hour it is. Okay? So for example, for 1 o'clock, right, the little hand would be pointing towards the 1, just like that. I kind of wanted to make it an arrow. Hold on one second. Let me try and fix that. So again, because it's 1 o'clock, the small hand, which is the hour hand, is going to point towards the 1. Okay? For 2 o'clock, the small hour hand is going to point towards the 2. And then 3 o'clock, the small hour hand is going to point towards the 3. So if you ever get a clock that looks like this and it has like the clock, but then it also has this kind of dotted circle in it, that's just showing you how far to draw your hour hand. So the hour hand should probably never go past that dotted circle, and your minute hand will go all the way to the number or the line that you're going to be pointing to. Okay, so this is just an example of how you would draw each hour hand pointing to the correct hour. So for 4 o'clock, again, our small hand would be pointing towards the 4, just like that. Now, one thing that they introduced in the video was talking about where that hour hand is going to be when it's half past the hour or 30 minutes past the hour. Right? So let's take 4 o'clock, for example. All right, so we're going to figure out where the hour hand points to show half past 4 o'clock. So once it's half past, and so the minute hand is on the 6, the hour hand actually goes from being right on the 4 to now in between the 4 and the 5. And it does this for every time as well. So if it was half past 7, then the hour hand would be in between the 7 and the 8. If it was half past 10, the hour hand will be in between the 10 and 11. Okay? And that only happens when the minute hand is on the 6 or any of the other numbers after it, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And that hour hand is going to keep moving until it gets to the next number, and once the minute hand hits the 12. But we'll deal with that a little bit later. But just for now, always know that whenever it's half past a certain hour or 30 minutes past a certain hour, the hour hand, which is the smaller hand, is going to go in between the two numbers. Okay? So let's have some examples here, and I like how they gave us this little diagram right here because this is exactly what we were working with in that video. Okay, so it says it takes 5 minutes for the minute hand to move from one number to the next number on a clock face. So even though these numbers say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's for the hours, but in terms of minutes, okay, they represent fives. So when you're counting minutes on a clock and you point at each number, you want to count by fives. So if you start with the 1, that's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, and then when again that big hand, minutes hand, is on the 12, that means o'clock. Okay, so the clock hands on these clocks show 4 o'clock and 4:30. Now, we're not going to trace them, obviously, but these are just two examples of what the clocks look like when they're showing these times. So 4 o'clock, the hour hand, the small hour hand is pointing to the 4, and the long minutes hand is pointing to the 12, because remember, when the long minute hand is on the 12, that means o'clock. Okay, so this one is showing 4 o'clock. This clock is showing 4:30 or half past 4. Okay, so you can tell that because the long minutes hand is on the 6, and if you were to count by fives, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. so that would show 30 minutes. And because it's 4:30 or 4:30, then the hour hand, the small hour hand, is going to go in between the 4 and the 5. Okay, so the 30 tells you that the time is 30 minutes after the hour. The hour was 4, and the minutes after 4 is 30. So it would be 4:30. Okay, this is a really good picture up here to use if you ever need help. So again, each number in minutes goes by 5s. And once you get on the 6, you notice that the hands have kind of gone halfway around the clock already, and all they got to do is go the other half around before they make a full circle. So that's why we always call it half past whatever hour it is. So in this clock right here, the little hand is going in between the 10 and 11, and the big hand is on the 6. So we know that this clock is showing 10:30. Okay? So it says, look at the clock hands and write the time. So the first one, I notice that the small hour hand is pointing to the 1, and I notice that the big minutes hand is pointing to the 12. So therefore, I know that this time is showing 1 o'clock. Because again, that hour hand is on the 1, the minutes hand is pointing on the 12, and 12 means o'clock when that big hand is on it. Now let's look at this next one. So I see the hour hand is going in between the 8 and 9, and the big minutes hand is on the 6. Okay, so that means that I know that the time in the hour is going to be 8 because it's in between the 8 and 9. So whenever you see the hand go in between two numbers, it's always the smaller number. That's the hour. Okay, so this, in this regard, it's going to be 8. So I know that it's 8, but then the big minute hand is on the 6, and I know that that means 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 minutes have passed after 8 o'clock. So therefore, this clock is showing the time 8:30. And then the last one on this page, again, the hour hand is going in between the 3 and the 4, so I know that the hour is going to be 3. And the big hand is on the 6, which again in minutes is 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So I know that this time is 3:30. So just a good thing to just kind of always keep in the back of your head. Whenever that big hand is on the 12, it means o'clock. Whenever that big hand is on the 6, it means 30 minutes after the hour. Okay? Let's take a look at a few more. So it says, look at the clock hands and write the time. So this one is showing the hour hand is in between the 9 and the 10. So the hour is going to be 9 because that's smaller than 10. And then the big hand is on the 6. So that means 30 minutes past 9. So the time would be 9:30. Okay. For this one, the hour hand is in between the 12 and the 1. Okay, so in this case, the hour is still 12. Even though 12 is bigger than 1, in this case, it's going to be 12. So the little hand is showing a few minutes past 12 o'clock. So, but the hour is still 12. And then the big hand is on 6, which again means 30 minutes past the hour. So in this case, this clock is showing the time 12:30. And then the last one on this page, we have the hour hand. This is where this could get a little confusing. So you really have to make sure you know where the hour hand is and where the minute hand is. So the hour hand is actually pointing right to the 6. And the minutes hand is pointing right to the 12. So remember, when the minutes hand is pointing to the 12, that means o'clock. And the hour hand is going to tell you what hour. So it is 6 o'clock in this clock. Okay. And we'll just do a few more before we go on to another problem. So this clock is showing this hour hand on 4. The big hand is on the 12, so therefore it is 4 o'clock. In this clock here, we see that the hour hand is in between the 11 and 12, so we know that the hour is 11. And then the big hand is on the 6, so we know that that's 30 minutes past 11 o'clock. So the time would be 11:30. And then the last one, the hour hand is in between the 5 and 6, so the hour is going to be 5. And the minutes hand is on the 6 again, which means 30 minutes past the hour, so the time is going to be 5:30. Okay, so kind of a hard concept. You really just got to remember again that the numbers on the clock all represent 5 minutes in terms of the minute hand, and then the hour hand, whenever it's pointing in between two numbers, it's always usually the smaller number. Unless it's pointing in between 12 and 1, then the hour is always 12. Okay. All right, so it says Allie eats lunch when the hour hand points halfway between the 11 and 12, and the minute hand points to the 6. When does Allie eat lunch? Show the time on both clocks. Okay, so again, it says that the hour hand points halfway between 11 and 12, so I'm going to draw that on the clock right now. So just like that, okay? And then it says, and the minute hand points to the 6. So then I'm going to draw a minute hand, which is longer, right on the 6 there. Okay? So now we should be able to tell what time Allie eats lunch. So the little hand is going in between the 11 and 12, so I know that the hour is 11, and then the big hand is on the 6. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So I know that Allie eats lunch at 11:30. And then it asks, how do you know what time to write in the digital clock? Explain. And so something we can say, what I have written here is, we know that the hour hand is in between the 11 and 12, and the minutes hand is on 6. And this shows 11:30. Okay, so that's just a quick way that you can explain your answer. All right, last problem. Reggie's guitar lesson starts at 10:30. Which clock shows this time? So 10:30, right? We're looking for a clock whose hour hand, or the small hand, is in between the numbers 10 and 11, because it's not really 11 o'clock yet. It's almost 11 o'clock, but we're not quite there yet. But it's also past 10 o'clock, so that's why it's not on either one of those numbers. It's in between. So we're looking for a clock that has the hour hand that's in between 10 and 11. And then remember, 30 minutes can be represented with the big minute hand pointing to the 6 on the clock. So take a few seconds, see if you can find a clock that has the hour hand in between the 10 and 11 and the long minutes hand pointing to the 6. Okay, and so if you picked the option D, you are correct. That is the correct answer. Because again, if you look at the clock, the hour hand is in between the 10 and 11, and the big hand is on the 6, so that represents 10:30. Okay? We're going to have a little bit more practice with telling time in future lessons, so hopefully this was a good introduction for you, and hopefully you can understand it a little bit better after doing some of these activities. Now what you guys can do is you can sign on to Think Central and complete the assignment for Chapter 7.8, and good luck everybody. Nice job working with me on time, and can't wait to see how well you do on your assignment. Bye everybody.